I'm Tom, and this is my review of the original Ultimaker. Now, I know what you're saying, wait a minute, why is he reviewing a printer that came out in 2011? And why the heck is that thing painted in that awesome orange and black? Well, I'm about to answer that. First of all, like the printer bot, this is Nils Hitz's Ultimaker, who also happens to sell them at 3ddinge.de. And that already explains the awesome color scheme. You see, normally the Ultimaker 1 comes in plain plywood, but black just looks sweet and orange is the national color of the Netherlands, where the Ultimaker is from. So that answers the first question. Now, why am I looking at the original Ultimaker and not at the Ultimaker 2 that came out at the end of 2013? Well, let me answer that question with another question. Why should I not review the original Ultimaker? You see, the Ultimaker was never built to become obsolete like many of the other consumer 3D printers. It was built to last and got upgrades throughout its lifespan. For example, the Ulti controller was originally introduced as an upgrade part, but now comes standard with pretty much every Ultimaker. The extruder is also an updated design that lets you easily swap filament, but also works really well for, driving filament into the hot end. Now, the Ultimaker has always been a Bowden design to keep the printhead as light and fast as possible. And for the most part, it is still working spectacularly well. Yes, the Bowden requires a bit stronger retract settings to reduce strings and blobs, but with the clips that keep the Bowden connectors tensioned during retracts, the retracts themselves lose much of their scariness. In fact, the experience of my first prints on the Ultimaker were the first time in a long while that 3D printing really managed to impress me. I've seen a lot of printers and many great results, but what's special about the Ultimaker is with what kind of ease it pulls off practically perfect prints. You see, Ultimaker also offered the Cura software, which integrates a basic STL preprocessor, a slicer and a host. And while it's not limited to the Ultimaker, but also works with every other open source printer, you can really tell that with an Ultimaker, you get the full-on experience. Things are simple. You tell Cura you have an Ultimaker, it runs you through some basic checks, offers to upgrade the Ultimaker's firmware, and then right away gets you high-resolution, perfect prints. But it also gives you the option of doing even lower layer heights and an even better quality. You see, Ultimaker are applying a different standard when it comes to the quality of their printers. While most other printers consider 0.1 mm a high print resolution, for Ultimaker that's the standard setting. On most other open source printers, you need to at least calibrate the extruder before you can really use it. I just happen to have a video on that procedure, but on the Ultimaker there's none of that. Okay, so I think I've established that I really like the way the Ultimaker prints. And I mentioned that Cura works really well with the Ultimaker. Man, I love Cura. There's just so many details in there that make it feel super efficient, polished, just really nice. But what about the way the Ultimaker itself is built? Well, first of all, the Ultimaker is a box, obviously. A box frame means that everything is absolutely stiff in every direction. And that works. Now, the motion system the Ultimaker uses is a bit special in a good way. What the Ultimaker does is two things. It pushes the printhead with these two rods that are each driven from either side by these carriages. Now, the carriages ride on another rod, which of course supports the linear movement of the carriage, but also rotates and drives the pulley for the belt of the other axis. It's a rather complex design to wrap your head around, but it works well. The Z-axis is driven by a proper lead screw with proper end machining and the proper coupling for the motor. It also rides on properly fed linear rails. And that also works well. Well, okay, this particular bot could use a little grease. The hot end Ultimaker uses is a fairly standard peak-based design. This one leaks a tiny bit out the top, but not to an amount that would cause any kind of trouble. Probably just needs to be tightened down. Ultimaker also includes a fan to cool the print, and it comes with a simple fan shroud. Again, that works. The other fan sits on top of the Ultimaker's electronics in the bottom of the printer and sounds like it's about to give up. The print bed is a fat piece of acrylic, so it's not heated and only works for PLA and some other specialty filaments. Warp isn't much of a problem with the proper blue tape. Now for the Ulti controller, I must honestly say that I didn't use it much at first. I'm used to just hooking up the printer with USB or having it available through a browser with Octoprint. But the Ulti controller grew on me. It lets you do everything you'd normally use the printer host for, and since using SD cards works so well with Cura, that quickly became my main way of printing files. And of course, it allows you to print without dedicating a computer or a Raspberry Pi to your 3D printer. Now, I feel like I should mention this because I also mentioned it on the review of the Printhead. Ultimaker is a great company. They released the plans of their 3D printers. They hired the main developers behind Cura and the Marlin firmware. They have great customer support and enjoy engaging with the community. Basically, they're awesome. MakerBot? Not so much. So here's the deal. The Ultimaker is a printer that really impressed me. Yes, it only prints PLA and it's a bit on the noisy side, but its actual printing quality is absolutely top notch. There is really not much out there that prints this well. Now you can either get the Ultimaker, the printer, as a kit without the Ulti controller directly from Ultimaker, the company, for 995 euros, plus tax and shipping and imports if you're outside the European Union. So about 1,200 euros including tax. Or you can get an assembled version with the Ulti controller for about 1,800 euros, plus shipping from either Ultimaker or 3D-Dinge. And it's definitely worth that much. No 3D printer I've used so far, including some much more expensive professional machines, or printers from other manufacturers, pull off high quality prints with that kind of ease. By the way, the print job is extra. So that concludes my review of the original Ultimaker. Thanks for watching. Please don't hesitate to click the subscribe or like buttons and feel free to share any of my videos on your most used social media platform.